deficit of nearly 274 billion in April, a turnaround of the surplus worth 87 billion pesos in the same period last year. This brings a gap to 348 billion pesos in the first 4 months of 2020, an increase from last year's deficit of 3.4 billion pesos. The Treasury said government spending more than doubled to over 461 billion pesos in April, primarily due to the release of the first tranche of the 200 billion peso social amelioration program, the 50 billion peso wage subsidy program, and the disbursement of the 36 billion peso Bayanihan grant to local government units affected by the COVID-19 crisis. At the same time, government revenues fell 39% in April to over 187 billion pesos as tax collections plunged due to the postponement of filing and payment of deadlines amid the lockdown. Recall that President Duterte placed the entire island of Luzon under an enhanced community quarantine in mid-March. This prompted the BIR to extend for a few times the filing of tax payments. On May 15, Metro Manila and other high-risk areas were placed under a modified ECQ, which saw the loosening of some restrictions. The Philippine Star, quoting COVID National Task Force Special Advisor Dr. Tony Liachon, is reporting that NCR will be formally recommended to President Duterte to be placed under a general community quarantine or GCQ. Under a GCQ, Malacanang said President Duterte is expected to tackle this in his public address later tonight. Meanwhile, ING senior economist Nicky Mapa said the government should resist going into austerity mode to ensure that economic hardship is minimized. HSBC economist Nolan Arbis said the Philippines has been exemplary in keeping a sound fiscal position, but the COVID crisis might push it into a different direction in the years to come. Meanwhile, data from the Bangko Sentral show that net inflows of foreign direct investments climbed 12% in January to $657 million. The BSP said that this development, which was before the local lockdown, reflects continued investor confidence in the economy. All right, this time around, let's have a check at what's happening here in the local bourse. As you can see here, you have the index continuing its winning ways that we saw yesterday. It is now up by 0.4%, still at that 5,500 level. To be exact, it's at 5,545 after an hour into the trading day. Recall yesterday that the index finally edged higher after that two-day slump. We saw the index on Wednesday jumping 0.5%, sending it back to 5,523. Recall as well that in yesterday's broadcast, we saw the PSEI sinking by as much as 1.2% before paring back those losses. First Gen, of course, leading that charge. In fact, it rose by as much as 21% in yesterday's trade. Look at this chart right here. We did see FGen rising early on Wednesday's trade before paring back those gains, but still, nonetheless, you have the stock ending the day, at least Wednesday, by 14% to 20 pesos and 25 centavos. That's after Valorous Asia made an acquisition offer of as much as 9% of FGen at 22 pesos and 50 centavos a share. More details on that offer are coming in. You have Valorous Asia, just to let you know, it is a unit of KKR Asia Pacific Infrastructure. Now, one of its officials, David Simon LeBoeuf, said that the all-cash offer could actually bring immediate return on shareholders' investments and at an attractive premium. They made the offer in good faith, according to him, and they would welcome the opportunity to become a minority investor. Now, just to let you know as well, other investments that KKR has made, at least in local firms here, you have investments in the hospital arm of Metro Pacific, as well as PLDT unit Voyager Innovations. FGen, according to some analysts here, Chris Mangon of AAA Southeast Equities, to be exact, said that the rise of FGen actually drove up the main index. But at the same time, however, if you try to take a look at the performance of the stock this morning, it is down 0.25% to 20 pesos and 20 centavos a piece. Other than that, the upward push that we saw yesterday happened due to new vaccine news. That at least is according to Luis Limdingan of Regina Capital. According to him as well, you have definitely as well, there's also optimism over positive signs of global economic recovery. However, foreign investors were still net sellers on Wednesday. That we saw the 15th straight day of net foreign selling with net sales at 209.9 million pesos. But some stocks we need to be keeping tabs on, both from the food space. Let's kick things off with Jollibee. As you can see here, Jollibee, the worst performer in today's trade, at least at the start of the morning trade here, it is now down 4.3% because after declaring rationalization plans in which they have earmarked 7 billion pesos and sinking as well over junk food tax news, now there's this. Jollibee is reporting net loss in the first quarter of 2020 that is to the tune of 1.8 billion pesos. You have first quarter revenue also down by as much as 2.3%, now to 39 pesos at 39.4 billion pesos. System-wide sales as well is only higher by 1.6% to 55 billion pesos, according to their CFO Ismael Basa. Their 2020 financial performance will not be good. Then the company is in fact anticipating deeper losses in the second quarter. However, they are seeing things picking up in the latter part of the year, in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. But according to them as well, it's going to be a slow recovery for Jollibee. Again, you have the stock here now down 4.3%. Now, moving on to another food stock here, you have another food player experiencing declines in profits, San Miguel Food and Beverage. Let's try to check in on their first quarter performance. You have here the pandemic weighing down on their first quarter net income. It is down 20% to 5.8 billion pesos. Operating income likewise is down by as much as well. It is now at 8.6 billion pesos, at least for the first 3 months of the year. However, they also raked in revenues at 69 billion pesos. That is also down by as much as 9%. The liquor bans across key cities impacting really the sales of their alcoholic beverages. The beer division is in fact down by 18% to 28 billion pesos. Spirits units likewise plunging 14% despite having a good start to the year. However, you have somehow the food division tempering those losses. It was up 2% to 33 billion pesos as consumers stock up on supplies. According to their president and CEO, Ramon Ang, the road to recovery is going to be long, but they remain confident that they can overcome this once again. However, looking at the performance of the stock here, investors seems not affected by that bit of news. You have SMFB, FB rather, it is up 1.8% to 62 pesos and 85 centavos. Here are other stories we're watching this morning. 4G video quality in the Philippines has declined in March since lockdown was declared in parts of the country. That's according to UK-based mobile analytics expert OpenSignal. OpenSignal says the quality of 4G video declined by over 7% in urban areas and almost 15% in rural areas from February to March. The group says despite the declines, the overall 4G video experience in the country still ranges from fair to good. OpenSignal sees this as an indication that mobile operators are able to cope well during these trying times. OpenSignal assesses picture quality, video loading time, and stall rate to classify an area's 4G experience under 5 categories. Either it's poor, fair, good, very good, and excellent. Now, Senate President Tito Soto says the proposed Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, or CREATE, could be approved on final reading ahead of the congressional break. CREATE, the revised version of the CITIRA, was certified as urgent by President Duterte. The bill, which aims to reduce corporate income tax to 25%, is now positioned as a means of attracting investment from foreign companies looking out of China. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez has referred to this measure as the most important economic reform in decades. But Soto is training his sights on more stimulus to restore economic growth maintain employment, and expand the country's production amid the pandemic. He said the chamber's stimulus bill is expected to require 548 billion pesos in funding for the remainder of 2020 and a further 80 billion pesos next year. And this from the Philippine Star. The Energy Regulatory Commission has cleared Meralco to spend over 410 million pesos for 6 capex projects, although this is lower than the 450 million pesos that the power distributor applied for. These include the expansion of the Bagbagin substation, the installation of a switchgear at Dasmariñas, and replacing the power transformer at the Mandaluyong substation, among others. The projects were originally slated for 2015, but were deferred due to lack of jurisdiction. Now, on top of this, Meralco is targeting 3,000 megawatt capacity in the next 5 years as part of its growth strategy for its power generating unit. 1,000 megawatts of the total capacity will be carved out of renewable energy. Recall that Meralco started its expansion into renewable energy last year with the establishment of M Green, which is now working on 2 solar farms in Bulacan and Tarlac. MGen is also preparing to launch another power plant in Atimonan, Quezon. But Meralco has been making the news as of late as some consumers complain of bill shock in their electric bills for the month of May, even prompting congressional hearings. Now, to better make sense of things, we have with us on the show Victor Genuino, Vice President, Customer Retail Services and Corporate Communications Head of Meralco. Good morning, Sir Victor. Nice to have you here with us on the show. It's been quite a busy week for you, at least for the past few days. Especially now, you have many consumers complaining of bill shock after the imposition of that averaging scheme for electric bills. How exactly did it come to this point with some consumers receiving, at least according to them, alleging staggering bills for the month of May?
Good morning, Jess. Thank you for having me on your show. Well, I guess it's very normal for people to get surprised when they see a high bill. But I think there are some factors that led to people receiving a high bill, and let me name 3 of them. Number one, I think that the high bill is really caused by the ECQ and MECQ periods, wherein people are really working from home, studying at home, staying at home longer, utilizing appliances more frequently and for longer period of hours. The second reason is, as you know, May was a very, very high temperature month. So the range of temperature was at 37 degrees in some areas, moving up to 42 degrees in terms of heat index in other areas. And I think the third reason is that since Meralco was not able to do meter reading for the months of March and April because of ECQ, we were forced to estimate the consumption of consumers. And this is via the Energy Regulatory Commission's distribution services and open access rules, wherein Meralco is allowed to estimate bills of consumers based on their previous month's consumption. So for a customer who we had to estimate bills for March, we used the reference point of December, January, and February, which were cooler months. And for the month of April, we weren't able to meter read. We had to use the months of January, February, and March to estimate. So if you compare those estimated months versus the real month where consumption was happening, most of these people were underestimated. And once we're able to finally do meter reading in homes and businesses in May, the difference of what was estimated and what was actually consumed was also added on to the May bill. Hence the increase in consumption that our customers saw when they received their May bill.
However, also you did admit as well in the congressional hearing that there was overestimation. How exactly did that happen?
So there are 2 kinds. One, customer experience is underestimation, which was explained. The other is overestimation. So a scenario wherein we gave a 3-month estimate for a residential home or a business. For a residential home, an example would be a home that has been vacated because of ECQ and GCQ, and the tenant or the person residing in the home went back to the province or went to another home. Another scenario would be a business which was closed, a laundry shop, a computer shop that we
Mhm,
estimated for 3 months consumption, but they weren't there.
mhm.
So in this case, what we are assuring customers is that once they finally get their May bill, or in some cases their June bill, what will be reflected will be their actual consumption. And if they paid for their bills already for March and April, they can get a refund at the Meralco Business Center. Or another alternative would be to credit this overestimation into their future month's bill. So rest assured that once the meters have been read and the bills have been rendered, customers will only pay for what they consume. That's the assurance that Meralco would like to give its customers.
Okay. At the same time, I think consumers would like to know as well. These cases of overestimation and underestimation. This is just an isolated case. This is a one-time thing.
Yes, that is correct. It's really because we weren't able to do proper meter reading for the months of March and April. Even though we wanted to do so, it was very difficult for us to put our people in harm's way. There were questions from some of our consumers on why we were still sending meter readers out to read.
Mhm.
Um, but we had to secure IATF IDs from the government. We equipped our personnel with proper PPEs, and once we had that, we felt that we were confident that our meter readers could actually do their job to ensure that we could read meters. And once the meter has been read, we can assure customers that what is reflected on a customer's bill is one's true and actual consumption.
Okay, which leads me now to my next question here. How will the ERC order affect the billing, at least for the ECQ months? And at the same time, do you now have enough capacity and leeway to actually conduct physical meter readings to meet your, if I'm not mistaken, the June release of our electricity bills?
Yes, that is correct. So for the month of April, we were only able to read roughly 2% of our customers. For the month of May, we're able to read around 65% of our customers already. Some customers have not been able, we haven't been able to read them because of lockdown in specific areas. But the good thing is, once a customer gets their actual May or June bill, ERC was able to give customers some relief. So if you are a customer whose consumption in February was 200 kilowatt hours and below, beginning with June 15, the ERC has allowed us to provide a 6-month installment plan for these customers for the period of March 15 all the way to May 31. And in our case, Meralco even extended that further to say all bills that were due from March 1 all the way to May 31 will be covered by this 6-month installment scheme. But if you are a consumer whose consumption in February was 200 kilowatt hours and above, you will now be given a 4-month installment scheme, and you can start paying for this no earlier than June 15. So we welcome this relief that has been provided for by the ERC.
And I guess also, Victor, much of the confusion also lies because in the fact that sometimes electricity bills can get quite confusing. So, is there a move, at least for consumers, to be able to expect clearer bills in the future?
Yes, that is correct. So we started doing that already for the May bills that we've released beginning this week. Each May bill now, which has been whose meters have been read, we will attach a letter, and the letter will basically say, "This is an actual meter read of your bill. So this is your true and actual consumption." We are also going to mention that they are entitled for either a 4 or 6 month installment plan. And more importantly, we put a diagram as seen on the screen, a very similar diagram that shows exactly how a bill is estimated and how the consumption of May will be actually computed. So this is our way of being as transparent as we can to our customers to educate them on how to properly understand their May bill.
Now, how exactly, I know you were explaining this earlier, but how exactly will the installment basis of payment work for the three ECQ months here? Are the payment for the said months, is it going to be on top of the monthly billing, for example, for the month of June?
Yeah, so for the case of June, a customer will receive two bills. One is for his June actual consumption, and another bill that will provide for the estimates of the previous months for March, April, and May. So customers can expect two bills, so it's very clear. The installment is for the previous past due of what his consumption was. And then for June, it will be for his actual consumption for the month of June. And the earliest that you can pay that, the relief given by ERC is June 30. So that gives customers some leeway to be able to pay both their current month's bill together with the installment plan that they need to follow beginning the 15th onwards, beginning June.
So meaning at least consumers should expect that they are going to pay two bills come June.
Yes, their installment bill and their regular monthly bill, which will begin no earlier than June 30.
Are you bracing as well? Are you bracing for the possibility as well that you will have consumers again complaining that they have to pay two bills come the month of June?
Yes, I think that's natural. I think if we were not able to read bills for the month of May, we have to reconcile that by reading the bill for the month of June. And the June bill will contain basically the previous month's consumption of March, April, and May. So what we will do there is that we will say 1/4 of the bill for the total amount is due on June 30, and then the installment of the 3/4 moving forward can now be paid from July, August, September, and October. So this gives customers enough time to be able to pay for their bill, because we understand that they are in a very difficult situation now, and we are very sensitive to the needs of our customers.
Okay, now how will the refunding process go, especially for those who've already managed to at least paid their bills for the previous months?
Well, customers have a choice. So if they've paid, for example, for their March and April bill, they can go to the Meralco Business Center and get a full refund. Alternatively, if they don't want to get a refund, this amount that they've paid can be used as a credit for their future month's bill. So the customer has a choice, and we will be able to service them either way, Jess.
Okay, now this time around, let's move on the topic to that 47 peso transaction fee for the use of the Meralco app. It got some quite of a backlash here. How reasonable, what's the rationale between the 47 peso fee? At the same time, are you now planning to rationalize that considering the backlash?
Well, I'd just like to clarify, Jess, that our Meralco online app has been in the market since September of 2018.
Mhm.
And we've always charged a convenience fee because it is really just one of the options that our customers have in order to pay for their Meralco bill. They can go to our business centers, they can go to a Bayad Center outlet, they can do online banking, or the use of other third-party agents. So it's just one of the channels that we've offered our customers who are seeking convenience. But we would also like to reiterate that the 47 peso amount is actually a fee that's being charged by our payment gateway provider. In this case, it's PayMaya. And when PayMaya collects this 47 pesos, roughly 43.58 pesos of that goes to the banks that they serve. So this goes to the banks, this goes to the credit card companies. These are the people that they pay this amount to be able to facilitate the transfer of funds and payment. And only 3.41 of this amount goes to PayMaya, the online payment gateway provider. And Meralco does not earn a single cent out of the 47 peso convenience fee.
Okay, now question is, what's the lesson learned here for Meralco? What could have been done to actually prevent this?
Well, I think two things. I think in hindsight, we could have been more forthright in communicating how the bill was computed and established for our customers. We've done that for the May bills that we've sent out this week by attaching that letter that I was telling you about. But I think the biggest learning for us is that technology can also be a solution to these issues. We feel that if we have smart meters on the ground, and smart meters are being used in a lot of jurisdictions globally, in Europe, in the United States, and in Asia, we wouldn't be in this dilemma of having to estimate bills. We do not need to send out meter readers to go house to house or business to business to be able to read a meter, because each meter now will have a remote reading feature. Anytime, real time, we can access information from these meters and determine the actual consumption being consumed by that specific establishment. So that will, number one, ensure that our people are protected. We're not exposing them to this type of environment that we're in. Our customers that we serve won't be exposed to the meter readers that we send out. But more importantly, it gives us accurate information of consumption that customers are actually consuming at it during a specific point in time. So I think technology is a solution in hindsight.
And how far along are you with the rollout of smart meters, and where has the holdback been?
Well, we've deployed around 102,000 smart meters now, mostly for our prepaid retail electricity service. We're going to be rolling out an additional 45,000 more. We're working closely now with the ERC and DOE to see how we can proactively deploy smart metering technology across Meralco's 6.9 million customers. Um, Obviously, it won't be a overnight initiative. It has to be coordinated properly with our regulator and with the DOE, and they are supportive of this initiative. And we feel that, among other things, it just gives us greater insight in understanding how our consumers actually consume their electricity and their energy.
And now, post COVID, what's going to be the plan for Meralco? You have the ERC greenlighting that 410 million peso capex for 6 projects. That, however, is lesser than what you had originally applied for. How is this going to affect your expansion plans?
Well, the main objective now is to really keep the lights on. We understand that people are in a very hard up position. We have consumers that are suffering. Our objective is just to ensure that we are able to provide continuous, reliable, and affordable power to our consumers in our franchise area. I think that is our primordial objective at this point in time.
Okay, and the same time now, you are targeting 3,000 megawatts in capacity within the next 5 years. 1,000 of that will be allocated for renewable energy. Is this a signal of how the company is going to veer away from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources in the future?
Well, I guess it has to be a mix. You have to manage least cost and at the same time manage our care for the environment. And I think by saying that from our 3,000 total capacity that we plan to build, 1,000 of that will come from green, I think it's a very, very big step to ensure that we are here to ensure that our environment and Mother Earth is also preserved.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, at least for your insights. Sir Victor Henrino, Vice President and Customer Retail Services and Corporate Communications Head of Meralco. Let me correct that. That's First Vice President of Customer Retail Services and Corporate Communication. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Jess. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now, let's have a quick check of the market movement here. You have the PSCI still continuing its winning ways that we saw earlier in the day. It is now up 0.6% to 5,558.63. That's after, of course, you have the IATF saying that it's going to recommend a shift to general community quarantine for Metro Manila and Davao, while Cebu City, on the other hand, is going to remain under MECQ. However, we have yet to hear official announcement, of course, from the president. Let's try to take a look at our leaders and laggards at this stage. I'm just going to refresh this very quickly, but earlier in the day, we did see Jollibee sinking after it did report losses for the first quarter of the year. As you can see here, Jollibee still down 3.3%. Again, Jollibee reporting a net loss of 1.8 billion pesos. However, on the other hand, you have a number of stocks here gaining. Security Bank is up 7%. Bloomberry likewise also extending its gains from yesterday. It is now up 6.8%. And you have here Ayala Land inching higher, 5%. That's after it laid out plans to issue bonds expected to raise as much as 19 billion pesos. According to them, that is going to be used to refinance their outstanding debt obligations. Just to give you an idea, Ayala Land's first quarter borrowing is already at 230.7 billion pesos, with earnings also plummeting 41%. But as you can see here, the stock is now gaining close to 5%. And that's a first look into the business day this Thursday, May 28, 2020. Catch us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.